Most people don't feel lost because they're lazy or incapable. They feel lost because their lives have quietly turned into a loop of waking up, scrolling, distracting themselves, and going back to sleep. Days pass, then months, then years. On the surface, everything looks fine. There's food, entertainment, comfort. But underneath, there's a constant sense that something is missing. A dull emptiness, a restlessness that never fully goes away. You feel like you're wasting your life, yet you don't know exactly what you're doing wrong. This isn't a motivation problem, it's something much deeper. And Carl Jung identified it long before the modern world amplified it. We live in an era that teaches us how to function, but not how to become whole. Society constantly tells you to be productive, confident, successful, and happy, yet it never teaches you who you actually are beneath the surface. So people copy personalities, wear masks, and chase goals that look impressive but feel hollow once achieved. When motivation fades or discipline collapses, they blame themselves. Jung didn't. He believed the real problem wasn't effort, it was inner division, a split between the life you live and the person you truly are. Carl Jung wasn't a motivational speaker or a self-help guru. He was a psychiatrist who spent years listening to people who appeared successful yet were internally falling apart. What he noticed was unsettling. People weren't suffering mainly because of external problems, but because they were disconnected from themselves. They didn't know who they were, what they wanted, or why they felt the way they did. Worse, they were afraid of what they might find if they looked inward. Jung described this as the core sickness of modern humanity, and it's more relevant now than ever. According to Jung, the mind isn't a single unified thing. It's a system made up of different parts, and modern people live in a constant internal conflict. On one side is the personality you present to the world, the socially acceptable version of you that seeks approval and validation. On the other side are the parts you suppress: anger, jealousy, fear, desire, resentment. Society teaches you to bury these traits instead of understanding them. You learn to smile, behave, and suppress. But what's buried doesn't disappear, it waits. And eventually, it resurfaces as addiction, anxiety, rage, depression, or self-sabotage. Jung warned that when the unconscious isn't made conscious, it will run your life while you mistake its influence for fate. This is where most modern self-help fails. You're told to wake up earlier, hustle harder, and become more disciplined. But discipline without self-knowledge is just control without understanding. You try to force change while ignoring the part of you that resists it. The result is predictable: relapse, burnout, binge behavior, and self-hatred. Not because you're weak, but because you're fighting yourself. Jung believed that denying your darker side doesn't make you good. It makes you fragile or dangerous. Real growth doesn't come from pretending to be pure. It comes from becoming conscious. Jung also believed that the deepest human need isn't happiness, but meaning. Meaning comes from alignment. When the life you live matches the truth of who you are inside, when there's no alignment, your psyche rebels. You feel empty for no clear reason. Small things irritate you. You're drawn to distractions that numb you. Even when life looks fine, something feels wrong. This isn't a phase, it's a signal. Your mind is telling you that you're not living in truth. Most people ignore that signal and drown it in stimulation until they're emotionally numb. Jung called the rejected part of the psyche the shadow. The shadow contains everything you were taught to hide or suppress, traits you were punished for, emotions you were shamed for, desires you learned to deny. The shadow isn't evil, it's unlived life. The more you ignore it, the more power it gains over you. This is where compulsive behavior, addictions, and sudden self-destruction come from. Not because you're broken, but because something inside you is demanding recognition. The hard truth is that most people never resolve this. It's easier to blame society, trauma, other people, or fate than to face yourself honestly. Confronting the shadow requires responsibility, humility, and courage. Jung believed very few people are willing to do this work, and that's why most people live their entire lives only partially alive, never integrated, never whole. In the next step of this journey, the shadow must be faced directly. Understanding what it truly is, how it secretly controls behavior, and why suppressing it makes you weaker rather than stronger is essential. Integration, not repression, is what creates real strength. That process is uncomfortable, but it's necessary. And once you understand it, you can't unsee it.